So today we're going to be discussing more true crime. I picked this was called the Danger Zone PowerPoint format, and I just felt like it really fit the energy of today. Because it is wild out here, like a Jurassic Park, okay? And so let's just get into it. Also, we have our guest Tyla Wright. You can find her on the Forkball and Defiant Takes Football, and on Twitter as Tyla Wright 4, and on Facebook and Instagram as Tyla Wright. So definitely look her up. She has some great content, especially if you're a BYU fan. That's where a lot of her focus is. And so, all right, let's jump in. So we're gonna be starting with Tyreek here, because he's been a little wild lately, and we haven't really been talking about it too much. But in particular, he's facing 2 paternity suits at the end of 2023 because he's been getting around. He already pays $13,500 a month to his ex and their 3 kids together. And he offered so he has, again, the 2 new paternity suits. He had one woman who gave birth to his son and one woman who gave birth to his daughter. So the mother of his infant son said, heck no, when he offered her $2,500 a month. She described that as woefully inadequate due to his $30 million a year contract. So going back to the whole Jamar Chase thing, when he was dealing with his children's mother and their demands for child support. The mother of his 6-month-old daughter has said he has utter and abject unconcern for his daughter and wants $10K a month. It's kind of unbelievable to me. I don't know, because in my life, I have plenty of experience with people who struggle to get any kind of child support, and from the parent of the child, the other parent. I've also known people who have to pay huge amounts of their check every month to make these payments, just to like get by, just like a minimum amount that works for everyone. And I understand that it is based on income, but what I don't understand is just there should be a cap, because just because this man makes 30 million a year doesn't mean you need 50,000 a month. Like that, I believe that was a request from that one woman a while back. Like, you need a certain portion to take care of the child, but there should be an amount where they limit it so that we're not like having people like chasing after men for an amount that's like ridiculous just because they make a lot. Like, I understand, but the whole purpose is to like take care of the child. Does that mean that you should get like a certain portion of their pot as long as like you can afford like the needs of the child? Like, I don't quite understand that. Like, 2,500 seems like a lot a month for one child. So, and 10,000 a month seems like a lot. Like the mother of his daughter. So I just don't quite get that. Yeah, but that's its own thing. But I'm just like thinking maybe there should be a cap, like where like as long as the full needs of the child are met, like you can't just like take him to the cleaners just because he makes a lot of money. Like, but anyways, they had a house fire, hence the fire, in the beginning of January, and it was caused by a child playing with a cigarette lighter while Hill was at practice. So that was terrifying. And also kind of interesting because there's like those charges that got dropped before regarding him and his son who had a broken arm. But anyways, like, you know, a little bit, maybe hire a nanny or something. So anyway, Tyreek always has some scandals popping, but now he's got 2 women who got pregnant this last year, 2023, and they want their money. And he also recently just got married. So he's got a lot going on. And even though he's the cheetah, he can't run from all of this. So we'll be keeping up with that.
Show me the money.
All right. Yeah, I'm giving 10K a month. Kayshawn Butte here. Don't know if you heard about this, but it's definitely a scandal that hit the news pretty hard. The Patriots wide receiver, Kayshawn, is accused of placing 8,927 bets in a 13-month span at LSU. He was arrested last week by Louisiana police, due to his habit there. He gambled between April 2022 and May 2023. The issue is that he was 20, so he was underage. And 17 bets were on NCAA games, including 6 involving LSU. But he's not accused of game fixing or anything like that. He is facing felony counts of computer fraud and misdemeanor charges of underage gambling, which is kind of wild. And I'm just like, okay, really? Like, we're coming for people because they were 20 and not 20. Anyway, that's a lot of betting. And it seems like a lot of states right now, because we're also reading about Ayuma and his whole situation with like Iowa. Like, it seems like a lot of states are holding athletes to task right now. So, but I know that at least Iowa is having some trouble legally with like getting called to task for their investigation purpose, how they did their investigation and like the legality of that. And so like it'll be interesting to see how the states handle this, like what actually happens at the end, because I think this has been coming up a lot more recently than it has in the past. So we'll be keeping up with Kayshawn, but he is all over the headlines. So if you were wondering what happened, that's what it was. Blake Martinez. This guy is like kind of wild, and I put him with a dinosaur because his maturity level is like someone who still likes dinosaurs. And my nephew is so cool, but he is only 13. So this is you, Blake. Okay, so he retired 1 year to pursue his career in trading Pokemon cards. He returned to the NFL in time for the December 7th game with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so he signed back on with them. In his year off, he netted 108K profit by opening deck. Oh yeah, so he got in one show, in one live stream, he got $108,000 by opening up a deck of Pokemon cards on live stream by auctioning the cards off one by one, which is crazy to me. He made $11.5 million in 1 year after opening Blake's Breaks in July of 2022 by reselling trading cards on online shopping platforms. By July 2023, there is 20 full-time workers, and they were live streaming 16 hours out of the day, every day, on the Whatnot platform, which I guess is pretty big for like gaming and like memorabilia for different things like that. Yeah. Anyway, scandal. This last July, though, put the Pokemon business on ice. He was banned by the platform for dragging his feet on shipping orders and misleading streamers because when they were opening the packs online, they were allegedly swapping packs for different ones, and apparently that is just not okay. So, his $1 million enterprise here hit the dirt pretty quick, and so he's now back on the gridiron. But it's kind of wild, like hearing him describe his Pokemon selling enterprise. But yeah, there we go. We'll see him back on the field, and he's not thrilled about it because he likes it when his back doesn't hurt, as how he described it. It's much easier to sell Pokemon cards online than his job on the field, which
So
makes sense.
he retired to catch them all, or
Okay, and he caught them all, but he didn't ship them all, and he also swapped them all, and so he got back into the NFL.
Gotcha.
Which
So
is a
he's
pretty awesome fallback job if you're gonna ask me. But anyway,
ain't nobody asked you, Julie.
I know, I know. Henry Ruggs, he's moved prisons, y'all. He's now at the Stewart Conservation Camp work program
Cell block deep.
in like northern Nevada, I think. It's minimum security facility, organized like a dorm. So I think it's like those big rooms where they just have like all the cots set up, you know. If you watch any prison shows, you know what I'm saying. Um, and he works for the Nevada Division of Forestry as a community trustee, and he's making $2.50 an hour, and he is up for parole in August 2026. And obviously, being a part of this pretty rigid work program, like it looks really good for the parole board because it is minimum security. So if he doesn't get in trouble, because these situations are like not heavily monitored at all by guards, and then if he like works hard, like this will be like definitely in his favor. But currently he's in a work camp, which sounds rough. Yeah, but there we are. And Michael Thomas, I don't know if y'all heard about this, but he had his little rant against the Saints and Derek Carr on Twitter, X, whatever. Um, so he was on Twitter, as I just said, saying, and a fan or somebody said if he was healthy, he would have gotten Drew like stats because he was kind of complaining about his lack of stats this season. And try to stay with me because like his grammar is alarming. He said, well, if I didn't get set up by a bad call, I probably would have had a light little 1,000 yards this year, but coulda, shoulda. I know I get it, lol. And then the fan or whoever responded saying a change of scenery might be good. Um and he said on top of that, they wasn't even trying to get me the ball, but it's no denying my style of play. It don't age player, you will see. And so to me, those are strong words for a player who hasn't had a full healthy season since 2019 and a 2023 arrest for battery charges. But you know, so it'll be interesting to see where he lands. What do y'all think about Michael here and his big mouth?
Clown.
Mm,
He's an absolute clown.
yeah.
I do not have anything good to say about Michael Thomas. He is a clown. He thinks he's better than he is when all he does is catch slant routes. So,
I feel like he's
anyways,
gonna be another one of these guys that we hear about every week for doing foolishness.
yeah, he's about to go on CTE Sundays.
Okay, with Antonio Brown and what's his Chandler?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be a huge thing, and all three of them about to have a great podcast because Mister Michael Thomas needs to like chill.
yeah. Now, Tyler, you mentioned writing about Kansas City. Did you hear about the three fans who passed away?
So I did hear about that a little bit, but I haven't covered Kansas City in months. So, you know.
Fair. But you know, I thought maybe if you write about the team and keep up with them a little bit, you know, even casually. But yeah, this one is hitting the waves because Nancy Grace has talked about it twice on her show. And any true crime enthusiasts who are probably watching this know she is the queen of true crime since Casey Anthony. So when she dedicates this much time to it, it's a pretty big deal. So anyway, we have some new updates. Oddly enough, one of the men, David Harrington, and just to a refresher, these three men were all found frozen outside of one man's house, Jordan Willis, his house. And he said he didn't know or see or was aware. He thought they had left the home, and apparently he slept. Well, we have three different stories as to what he did at this point. But what we do know is that he never left his house or looked outside for like 2 days. And didn't respond to any phone calls or anything. And there was just like these three gentlemen up here, frozen in his backyard.
It was cold out. That's why I didn't leave.
Yeah, but
I don't blame him.
It's cold out, man.
It
No,
was.
no,
It was
no,
cold
no.
in the Midwest for a time. It got really cold. Like we were seeing negative 40 something outside for a time. Like it was cold.
I hear you. It wasn't that's not the thing though. The thing is that like first he said he slept for 48 hours straight and he had headphones on and was sleeping by a fan. And I'm like, a fan in the middle of winter? Anyway, then
Yeah.
Yep.
Bro, you don't sleep with a fan, Julie?
my house is so cold right now.
So's my bedroom, but I still sleep with a fan.
No, I don't sleep with a fan when it's cold.
You're not living. You're not living at all.
That sounds
A fan with like 5 blankets.
so counterproductive to
No, it is like soothing.
It is, but my roommate does it, so that's what I live with, and that's what I get to do with. So
It is very soothing. Like,
wow. I mean, I have an AC on when it's hot, running
oh
off.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a must, especially for a fat guy. But like,
a fan in the middle of winter. Okay,
yeah,
fine. But he's okay, fine. But the point is that he said he slept for 48 hours straight.
yeah, it's highly unlikely.
Yeah, okay. And then you can say that he never had to leave the house, even though he had 2 dogs. So you would assume that he'd have to walk them or put them out back.
He's trained them to use the toilet.
However, he said he had both dogs at his dad's house, but then a fifth friend who was there said that he saw a dog there. But anyways, we don't know.
His.
His lawyer at one point said he kind of like came in and out of the house here and there, but didn't see anything. But then the lawyer recanted, saying he had moved around the house in those 2 days, but he hadn't seen anything. I get not leaving the house. I do. I don't know if I also understand not getting any of the phone calls, social media messages, and all that for 2 full days. Since he's in his 30s and most of us are at least somewhat aware of like those kind of things. So the 2 together is just odd. But anyway, so these 3 men were found out there. One of the men's fiancés like busted through his house because he didn't answer for 2 days. And she ended up finding one of the men's bodies in the backyard frozen and called the cops, and that's how this all kind of kicked off. So yeah, so anyway, some new updates. David Harrington, one of the men, was found sitting positioned in a lawn chair on the back porch, frozen. So it wasn't before, we thought that they were all sort of like on the lawn somewhere, but now we have a man who's like sitting in a lawn chair, which is just another odd piece. The family has finally met with Platte County prosecutor after like 3 weeks, but the prosecutor is not planning to move forward until the police conclude their investigation, of course. And it'll be several more weeks before we get a toxicology or an autopsy report. Obviously there's some thought that maybe they were under the influence, and so that's how they were frozen outside. It is important to point out that at that point in Kansas City, the night that they were out there, it was above 32 degrees. The next day, it was above 32 degrees. And then it was like 26 on the last day when they were found or something. So it wasn't like super cold, which is also interesting. It would have taken some time for hypothermia to set in, but anyways, yeah, so they're like, okay, how did 3 healthy men end up out there, and then like how did all 3 pass away outside? Because sure, one of them might have gotten like blackout drunk, for example, but all 3 of them, like, it just doesn't make any way you slice it, it doesn't make any sense. A neighbor did allegedly say that he saw 2 of the men in the group had a 30-pack of beer each that they brought to the game. But if they're drinking 30 packs like that, I mean, by the time you're in your late 30s, like they were, like, you're probably used to that. And the fact that all 30 of them got blackout drunk out there, like, it just doesn't, nothing makes sense. There is no scenario that makes a whole lot of sense. And meanwhile, Jordan Willis has put himself in rehab because the man who owned the rental home that this all happened with, that he moved out of a week later from. Anyway, he's in rehab to deal with his addiction problems. So, um, he's dealing with that, and we have a lot of questions for Jordan because he seems to be the only person who would have an idea of what happened, and he has already a lot of changing stories, but we'll be keeping up with what happens with these three gentlemen because it is like the most insane scenario ever. All right. So, Gruden, the Gruden NFL lawsuit. We now have a date is postponed until July, so a status check will be scheduled for July 30th. So it'll be a long time before we hear anything about that. So for Enyoma, I got this. Uwazuriki. That's how he did it phonetically himself. Okay. And the court case is heating up for him. The request to throw out charges, his lawyers requested to throw out the charges, which is pretty normal. But that was denied. But the judge also ordered the prosecutors to turn over more info from the investigation because to the defense because they haven't been like as forthcoming as they should be about like or could be. So they just need to give more of their information over because they're supposed to give everything to the defense. And Yoma used his girlfriend's account to place his bets. So that's like the other because we heard that he was betting under a different name and it ended up being his girlfriend, so just a little information on that. And the judge is not currently allowing his attorney to the power to subpoena people for investigations, but may grant that in the future. And Enyoma is challenging every step of the investigation that led to the charges. Some of the individuals just kind of pled out, but he's like, nah. So we'll be hearing from him for a while. And maybe because there's some debate that like that their investigation was problematic. So there we go. He is also one of the Iowa like college students. So kind of like LSU and Louisiana, like we'll be following those. So Will Smith here. I know we talked about him last week. I know he's a little bit older. I don't know if y'all heard about him. He was with the Saints when they won the Super Bowl in 2010. And he also that was like his kind of like crowning achievement, but he was a strong player for them and was much loved by New Orleans. And in 2016 he was killed, and the trial has had so much like speculation and controversy surrounding it, so we're going to delve into that a little bit more as the case kind of closed. And so what happened was the consensus is that he got in a car accident with a tow truck owner. And they got into a dispute, and the man Hayes ended up shooting him and his wife unprovoked is sort of the consensus, and Will died in New Orleans. So and some interesting fun facts because the Will Smith's killer Hayes actually the reason the case got overturned and he got out of jail until he could get recharged was because there was not a unanimous decision on the voting for the jury. And this one has a really interesting history. I don't know if y'all knew about this, but we're going to dive in here. Certain states allowed non-unanimous voting. And so we're going to talk about why and why it's so important that we have the unanimous voting. So the overwhelming majority verdict was considered the same as unanimous based on Louisiana Jim Crow laws passed after it was no longer to keep Black people off of juries. in like 1898. So the thing was is that they would have African Americans on their juries, but because they didn't have to have their opinion matter, because they didn't have to have a unanimous vote, they were kind of able to silence them, even though they couldn't keep them off the juries. And in 1934, Oregon passed a similar law of not having unanimous votes due to immigrants. This is a quote from the Organian, I think it's called, Organian. So immigrants from southern and eastern Europe are unsophisticated and unfit for American juries. So it's almost always rooted in some kind of racism or prejudice. And so cases like State of Louisiana versus Cardell Hayes brings these laws to the forefront again. And it's now outlawed as of 2020 that every state has to have unanimous voting, but it's interesting that it took so long and kind of the history. So the NFL has brought the Jim Crow laws to the light. So more controversy around the case was police corruption was rumored. And if you've ever, I lived in New Orleans for about 10 years, and we all know about the NOPD, okay? So the theory was Smith had okay, so the men got in a dispute, and Raquel Smith, Will Smith's wife, talked her husband down and was heading back to his car when Hayes shot 2 bullets into one of her legs and shot her husband 7 times. And he taunted him afterwards, and this is what I think a taunting call is fair. Said, "Look at you now," when he was on the ground dying. According to her testimony and other eyewitness reports, corroborate this. Hayes alleges Smith had a firearm accidentally shot his wife, trying to shoot Hayes, and in self-defense, Hayes shot back. Smith was allegedly not thinking clearly since he was 3 times over the legal drinking limit, which is definitely an issue during Mardi Gras and all that, because you get turned up, okay? And it's not a big enough city that everything is close enough to drive. Okay, so I understand this struggle. And don't forget the corrupt cop angle. Allegedly a retired police captain and friend of Will Smith ran into the crime scene, like Captain somebody, and took away the firearm before investigators could find it. The cop had recently been dining with Smith shortly before he was killed, like right before, and was also the same cop that Hayes. Okay, get this. Hayes' father attempted to stab in 2005, 11 years prior, while having a mental health emergency months after Katrina. So Hayes' father was shot dead due to the attempted stabbing. So this is the same cop that's friends with Will Smith that allegedly had an issue with Cardell and ran into the crime scene and attempted to steal the firearm. And the NOPD was so corrupt and it violated the public civil rights so many times that the police department entered into agreement with the federal government in 2012 to implement an unprecedented amount of reforms on agency levels. Definitely, yeah. The incident didn't occur in 2016, but likely the retired cop was in the NOPD around that time, and that might be why he's retired. I always just told my friends and family, like, if I die in New Orleans, don't even try to figure out why or how, okay? Because NOPD is too much. Anyway, the retired cop, however, testimony, witnesses said that he was actually at the next bar that they were all supposed to be hopping to, waiting for them. So the whole running into the scene, saving the day is probably not the case. So we can kind of put this situation to rest. We also learned a little bit about Jim Crow laws and unanimous voting. So you never know where this segment's going to take you, but here we are. Any thoughts before we move on, everyone? You don't have a burning desire to discuss police corruption in New Orleans? I don't understand.
None. I have none.
Okay, and I realized that I've been saying Milan his last name wrong all this time.
Lucic. Milan Lucic.
Yeah, and I said
I,
Lucic. I was close. I just got that middle C wrong.
yeah, I didn't have the heart to tell you.
You probably should have.
I thought you'd bite my head off, so I decided to let you go, do your thing, let you cook.
So the bench trial, he waived the jury trial, and he is getting a bench trial, which means just one judge makes the decision. And as to how if he's guilty or not, what he gets sent for sentencing. So he was scheduled for February 16th for a bench trial regarding the assault and battery of his wife. So good stuff. Okay, now we're gonna talk about the Canadian junior hockey team case. Brian, you had some hot goss about that. So if you want to lay that on,
Oh,
so if you want to,
hey, Rajan. Yeah, I'll lay the hot goss on you. Oh, yes, hot goss. And, so as of
that
today,
might not be the right word for an essay event, but you know,
all right, let's chill on that. All right, chill. Stop it. As of today, Gary Bettman released a statement. Today being Friday, February 2nd, that the NHL will not release its findings from a year-long investigation into the alleged assault on the actual of a woman by multiple players from the 2018 Canadian World Junior Hockey Team until ongoing judicial proceedings have been completed by London, Ontario Police. Commissioner Bettman told reporters today that the NHL had concluded its investigatory process and was prepared to share information with the NHL Players Association when news came down last week that police in London, where the alleged event took place in June 2018, were charging 5 current or former NHL players with the involvement in the case. So,
yeah, look at these 5 creeps or alleged creeps. Imagine that, like, what a bunch of
oh God, the dude from Calgary.
right.
That's
So
straight out of a 70s movie theater.
okay. So we have Michael McLeod and we got Michael McLeod and Cal Foote of the New Jersey Devils, the Dylan Dubé of the Calgary Flames. That's this guy that you were talking about. And Carter Hart of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Flyers, Jules.
Yeah, I don't
Not
know.
the Eagles.
Yeah, and my dad because he's a Philadelphia Flyers fan. But anyway, are facing confirmed charges because last week when we were talking about this, we were only hypothesizing that it was like we didn't list names because we didn't know for sure, but now we do. That is these 4 guys facing confirmed charges of SA in a group incident, as you described, Ryan. And former NHL player Alex Formenton has also been charged. And McLeod, Foote, and Hart are all on leave. And so I have a footnote, insert bullshit statements from lawyers who made one. The lawyers who did make one here, where it was all a bunch of fluff. Okay. And it's unclear if the men will be charged in a group or separately, like in court. So that'll be interesting to see, but can't wait to hold these guys' feet to the fire for being a group of creeps. Like, ew. Like, ew. Like 5 guys like bugging one woman, like that makes you like, oh, the scum of the earth. Okay, like literally, like we deal with a lot of people on this segment of the show, and y'all are like really scraping the bottom of the like slum bucket here. So cannot wait for some justice there. Certainly took long enough. All right. So, have y'all seen Abbott Elementary on Hulu?
I've heard of it, but I never watched it.
Oh, because this guy looks like the actor to me, like the male actor who dates the Yeah, I can't remember her name, but anyway, he looks like them. If you watch the show, you know what I mean. But Ryan, is he a big deal in the whole like NBA situation?
Not anymore.
But he was.
He for a good 8 to 10 years, he was one of the best point guards in the league.
Okay, because sometimes I hear about these names and I'm like this person, and you're like who? And so like I'm glad this is actually still relevant though, because he was all over the headlines. But they will make anything a headline nowadays. So Rajon Rondo here, he's a 2-time NBA champ. And he was arrested last week in Indiana. He was stopped after reports made that his 2022 Tesla was driving recklessly on an interstate. And he was
Damn
stopped.
computers. Oh,
What?
I was on autopilot, man. He couldn't control it.
Yeah. He got pulled over by the state troopers after smelling Schmeed from the car. The police searched it because if they smell it, then they can search it.
Reasonable cause, yeah.
Yeah, which is like in debate right now. But anyways, the police found Rondo allegedly had suspected what they suspected because they can't confirm it on the side of the road. Schmeed. It could have been oregano, I guess. Drug paraphernalia and a firearm.
Dried parsley.
Yeah. Despite being prohibited to have one. He wasn't allowed to have one. All with a minor in the car who was picked up by a family member. And he has a court hearing scheduled for February 27th. So good job, Rondo. We'll be keeping up with that. So Anthony Edwards. This one is he didn't do anything dramatically wrong. I know we have him in the same segment with people who do group essay sessions, but like we discuss hefty fines in this segment as well. So
With group essay.
yeah, the 5 men. Who,
When
like,
you say it like that, you make it sound like they're writing a paper together.
oh, shut up. Okay, fine, but I'm just saying he's not a bad guy. Like
Okay,
like
I got you.
Okay. So Anthony Edwards made the headlines for a $40,000 fee. The NBA announced the fine this past Wednesday via press release, via Twitter or X. Edwards had strong words Monday saying the refs were bad tonight. Yeah, they was terrible. We were playing 8-on-5. The cat got their tongue tonight, so it's all good. It's not fair, but it's all good. And he had made other critiques on January 20th. When Anthony was when people asked him what he thought about it, he said he wasn't surprised because he said the refs were cheating. This is kind of on the tail end of the Raptors head coach and the Kings head coach receiving $25,000 and $50,000 fines respectively for their critiques of the refs. So do y'all think that they're being a little harsh on them for, I mean, this is an issue in the NFL too. Like you can't say nothing to them.
You can't say anything to any official in any sport ever. How dare you criticize people who hold the game in their hands, pretty much.
Yeah.
And who fixed games. Like, you can't fault the players for coming out and speaking their minds. Like,
Well,
let them have
especially
their piece.
especially in the NBA, they actually found referees fixing games in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
Yep.
How dare you criticize NFL officials, though? Because then you'll find out the script has been written and they're in on it.
Right?
How dare you?
Well, the mob did actually fix some games in the NFL, but that was a long time ago.
I was gonna say, I was like, not this year, right?
No, like back in the day. But I mean, but I've heard Michael Franzese has spoken a little bit about what could be happening, what did happen back in the day. So who knows? They still out there, they're just more subtle now. But yeah, so it'll be really interesting to kind of like this ongoing debate, like I get maybe not saying like really awful things about them, like derogatory things about their family, stuff like that, threatening them. I get not those things being problematic, but just saying that they did a shit job shouldn't mean that like you lose $40,000.
Keywords shouldn't, Julie.
I know. Draymond Green, Ryan's favorite guy.
Clown.
He's on the he was
Hong
on
Kong.
what?
Hong Kong.
he was on a podcast this last week saying he was disappointed about not making the Olympics team, but he's ready if there's a late call. He wishes Grant Hill, USAB managing director, had told him why he got left out personally instead of publicly. He did outdo himself this week in Tuesday game against the Philadelphia 76ers after he fouled a player 0 seconds into the game, which confused everyone. But it's good to see that he's staying on the straight and narrow and minding his own business. This is on the heels of the Saturday controversy when he appeared to hit Lakers Anthony Davis's face. Now, according to the rules, contact with an opponent's head and face can be deemed marginal if it's a natural basketball move and not uncontrolled or disproportionate. And so it seemed like the refs thought that that's what it was. Lakers' Jared Vanderbilt waved his fingers requesting a review, and Green mocked him, saying things that people described as unsportsmanlike and NSFW. In response to Vanderbilt, and the refs did not review the call, which added further salt to the wounds of angry players and fans. So it's good to see that he's staying controversy free after his 3 weeks of therapy that brought him all the awareness ever. Yep. Okay, so we have the DRH scandal, and we're not talking about Wander Franco this time, except we will be, but that's not at this moment. It's a different age scandal. So apparently age fraud isn't uncommon in the MLB and recently has been a huge issue, especially in the DR. And why the DR, that is not clear to me. I have not actually found like any sources that explain that specifically.
They're the baseball capital of the world, pretty much.
I guess that makes sense that a lot of people are coming from there, but why they're specific? I guess, yeah, I guess
DR, Puerto Rico, Cuba, all those places are like baseball factories.
Yeah, so why is the Dominican Republic having the most trouble with this and not
I don't know. I heard the Dominican Republic is like hell to live in right now.
Yeah, so I didn't get a firm answer on that, but we do know that it's more of an issue there. So MLB Bob Nightingale reported he reported that 170 kids this year lied about their age, with 55 getting their contracts rejected and 22 players who had future deals already. That 55 included that. The age scandal goes both ways. So reportedly 12, 13, and 14-year-olds are lying and saying they're 16, the youngest you can be and get a contract. And on the other hand, players will say that they're much younger. Nightingale cited a 21-year-old who said he was 14, since younger can be seen as a kid. Yeah.
I am 12.
The MLB opened a department over 10 years ago that verifies age, and all international individuals with a signing bonus over 20,000 get reviewed, and they have over 1,000 cases a year. The free agency signing opens on January 15th. Hence the problem like being in the news right now because it's coming up. And allegedly, the Houston Astros and the Boston Red Sox have 5 players who lied about their age and had their contracts revoked so far. And it's allegedly also impacting the Kansas City Royals, the Mets, the Oakland A's, and the Minnesota Twins. So, kind of a weird situation over there.
Whew.
Yeah, I had no idea. So here we are.
Kind of figured the Cardinals would be mentioned.
Nope.
God forbid the GM does anything signing people. Anyways, yeah, go ahead.
No, do you have some more?
No. I was just being a pain in the ass.
I don't know why, but to me this guy looks like Ted Bundy in this photo. Okay, so Jackie Robinson statue. I told you all last week. I didn't think we'd be talking about this again, but the Jackie Robinson statue theft has really like taken off. I told you all about how he had gotten cut off at the ankles, and here's like just his shoes left. They have since been also taken away, but anyway, they've been trying to figure out. They had like CCTV of like, it was dark though, I think. They saw like the truck and they saw individuals, but they couldn't see anything more specific of them like taking. the statue. But yeah, it's heating up over there in Wichita, Kansas, because Tuesday morning the Wichita Fire Department was called to a trash can fire, hence the fire here, at a local park. They found pieces of the Robinson statue in the can once they had extinguished the fire. So somebody like lit this statue on fire in pieces. And it's not salvageable. So the mold of the original statue though still exists to make a new one, so that's cool. But also on Monday they recovered the vehicle that they believe was the one recorded driving away with the statue. But they cannot figure out, they now found the statue, they found the vehicle, they can't figure out who stole the statue. But this is a big deal in Wichita. And so we will be following what has really become far more exciting than I thought about this statue. Wander Franco up here, the little creep. Okay, the different kind of DRH scandal. Checked in this week on Tuesday with the authorities. He'll be in the courtroom next week when the teenage girl that he the charges are surrounding regarding him will be interviewed. I believe she's 14 by a judge. So he'll be in the courtroom while judge is interviewing this girl, which sounds horrifically traumatic if I had to say so myself. And if the judge so in the DR it's kind of interesting. The judge certifies the advanced testimony. It can be included in any formal charges ever that the prosecutors file against Franco. So if something happens in the future, they can use them again. And she won't have to testify in trial ever again because she already like did her interview, which is great because that's like less times we have to drag a 14-year-old to like talk about these tough topics. So like sounds awful, but also possibly compassionate in a way. And another judge will decide if Wander will face a trial, which could take months into summer. Franco, until then, he won't be able to enter the United States before all this is resolved. The prosecutors in the DR, they get a 6-month window to collect info on Wander and the girl's mom. That they can use to file formal charges. The mother's facing the same charges as Franco, in addition to money laundering. But the deadline for the case is July 5th, although the prosecutors can request an extension of up to 2 months. So right now they're collecting a lot of information, so we really don't have any idea about like what's going to happen with his case. But we do know he will be in court next week. And I really hope that his victim, since she kind of mentioned before that because she's 14 and a baby, that she wishes that she could like resolve things with him. Which no judgment against her because she's a child. But anyways, I hope that she like stands firm and like communicates everything that happened like in trial with him there. But so we'll keep up with that. Scott Erickson, the guy who looks like Ted Bundy here. We've been talking about how him and his affair partner Rebecca Grossman how they were racing one day in 2020 and she ran over 2 kids while racing because he was able to swerve out of the way, she wasn't, so she mowed over I believe an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old. So the trial is rolling on. Monday the boy's mother testified. She said she saw the cars racing with the black car, Rebecca's car, slightly behind Scott's car. She remembers the black car almost hitting her and her youngest son, who were right there when her other boys were mowed over. And then an incredibly loud noise and the black car kept going, leaving behind her son's dead on the ground. So I mean, yeah. Other details of the state of her son's post incidents I won't get into because it gets kind of detailed and it's horrible and sad. And I'm like, can we wrap this case up already? Because she literally saw this woman like hit her kids. But anyway, no, we can't. Instead, we need to hash out Grossman's affair with Erickson in front of her husband and kids, who are supporting her every day in trial, which I'm sure they love, and have the family of the 2 boys hear the gruesome details 4 years after living it. And my parting thought on this is everyone convicted of a crime has the right to a jury trial, but not everyone should take that right, because they shouldn't have to be doing this again. But Rebecca seems to think mostly about herself. So, we don't have to worry about her not giving a crap about these kids, because she clearly didn't. And so that is the culmination of true crime this week. Y'all have any parting thoughts on that? Are we glad to see Wander getting some potential justice this upcoming week, with like the girl being able to communicate all the things that happened to her, hopefully?
Yeah, he deserves everything he's got coming to him. After the little like my love or some shit like that on WhatsApp.
And yeah, and
Oh,
like grooming her
no.
by saying like he wanted to like make her like mold her into what he wanted and everything. Like, yeah, no thanks, no thanks. And I think it's interesting because I guess I didn't really realize that her mother is facing all of the same charges and money laundering, because she's sort of like
Hold her daughter out,
yes, yes,
turn
yeah,
her into Fancy.
yeah. So holding her feet to the fire as well.
Good. I don't understand. I don't understand what the point of burning Jackie Robinson's statue was in a trash can.
I don't know. This has like become like
They could have dropped it in a river, and then
this.
like years later, somebody found it.
The
No,
scandal is burning hot because the police said, "Let us know if you see the statue anywhere," because they wanted it back to put it up. Okay, so like they were actually giving out like they're giving out money if you could find the statue, and they were giving out money if you could um lead the rest of the people who did it. But instead, these people lit it up in a trash can on like it in the morning in the middle of a public park. And now they have the vehicle, but they just haven't achieved the people. And
seriously, they could have drove it out to like a remote part of wherever they live, right? Dropped it in the lake, dropped it in the river. No, dumbasses burned it in a trash can so a
I
fire
think they're
department could get
trolling
called.
on us. I think they're trolls. I think they're getting off on this, like little hunt that they have.
So you're saying that like you have to pay a toll to get across the bridge, or no?
No, I'm saying they're trolling the police officers. Okay, they're like, this is. I think they think it's
Stupid. Stupid.
and like, and they left his feet.
Well,
So,
stupid.
yeah. So, what started as a random story has really kind of gotten. I care about what happens in Wichita now, and I just never expected that to be the case. But as soon as Wichita police find out, we'll let you know.
Didn't they start a GoFundMe, right?
Yeah, because it's gonna cost like a crap ton of money to remake the statue, because I guess it's made out of like special metal and stuff. So like I think they said like 50,000, 70,000, something like that. So they're like raising money to make a new Jackie Robinson. And the same company who made him before still has the mold, so they can make the exact same one. But it's yeah, obviously it's pricey, and they have like pictures of kids like crying because they missed the statue, and they like put like a little like I miss you like with like a flowers on it, like where the statue was. Like this seems to like really be getting some kids, so which is awful. But anyway, like it seems like the community was really invested in the statue. So like they've already raised I definitely over 10,000 for the statue, and so yeah, will be. I want to see those people come to justice too. Okay, y'all sick lighting him on fire in a park.
Not smart criminals.
No, and they have their car now too, and I'm like, it's only a matter of time. It's weird that they haven't gotten them yet. But maybe Wichita isn't too fast on the police.
They all slip up eventually.
Yeah. I mean, they already lit him on fire. How much more?
Dumbasses.
Okay. Yeah, well, Tyla, thank you so much for joining in this week. We really appreciate it. You can find fans can find your work at the Forkball and Defiant Takes Football. You're on Twitter, Tyla and Wright 4, and you're on Instagram and Facebook as Tyla and Wright. So they can catch all of your news, which is mostly surrounding BYU right now. So our BYU fans like get all of the information there because Tyla knows everything about BYU. And yeah, so thank you so much again for joining us, and that'll be the culmination of our true crime this week. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, ding, and
Share.
the comment, let us know. We covered a lot of stuff today. We got a lot of different topics, a lot of like really interesting angles that we approach things. Let us know what you're thinking or what you'd like to see next week. Like just, any input we'd love to hear. All right.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Tyler. You can come on anytime you want.
Yeah.
Anytime you want to come back, just let us know.
Anytime.
All right.
You've been a great guest.
All right. Any thoughts before we move on, everyone?